Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the former world champion Terran in the red. It's Micro Jackson, ByuN's. Facing off against the Zerg player voted most likely to raise my blood pressure in the blue. We have SHIN. In a best of 5 Terran versus Zerg showdown. Between these two is always an action-packed roller coaster. It's not always good games, but it's almost always great ones. And before you think too hard about that statement, it'd be awesome if you could smash that like button and maybe even subscribe. Help me count the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? 1,670 likes on this video, on this cast. And I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better than both sides as the Reaper comes in, gets a lot of damage done to the drones because there are 6 Zerglings slipping across the map. The Queens will politely and yell very firmly ask the Reaper to leave, but instead the Reaper will go straight to the unit's lost tab. Injury and now insult as the Zerglings get in. The boys are pulled, and things have gone from bad to much worse for ByuN's to start things off in game number 1. The SCVs, almost half of the SCVs off the line to deal with 6 slow Zerglings. He lost a Marine. His command center is delayed. I feel like maybe he woke up on the wrong side of the bed and with wet socks on. Who knows what was happening last night, but things are just not going well for ByuN's today. It is just not a good start. Wow. 5 Zerglings. In terms of resources lost, But in terms of timing and tempo advantage and general lack of scouting at this stage, well, SHIN clearly taking advantage. A 3-minute lair. Fully embracing the fact he was able to take out that very first Reaper. And now a single Hellion may try to sneak by, but the Queens will shut it down as well. ByuN's just defaulting on his build. I mean, in some ways running out of money, in other ways just falling back to the strategy that he's used for over a decade. Multiple barracks, a 3rd command center on the way. It's going to be Marines, maybe some siege tanks, but more Marines. In fact, just Marines. A Roach 1 and an Evolution. 2 more gases on the way. Could it be? Indeed! Mutas! In game number 1. And this is not like a... Well, maybe he'll scout the Spire and freak out. No. He killed the Reaper. He's got the Roach 1 on the high ground. He is 100% trying to go for mass mutalisk. Now and again, we get a player attempting it. This is about an ideal scenario, which means it should be kind of obvious to ByuN's what SHIN's options are. But that doesn't necessarily mean he can stop him. Especially on this map, which has a close air distance between the main bases. Whenever you expand, you get further and further away from your main, making it kind of uniquely difficult to defend against air, and increasing the value of those mutas. In both, hitting the Terran as well as taking out potentially medevacs, which ByuN's has been known to use every now and again. Speaking of, 2 medevacs in production. He's got the Roach 1 and the baneling nest just now getting Zergling speed. Making sure he has all the tech online. We'll be able to build at least 5 mutas right off the bat. Enough to one-shot Marines and SCVs. ByuN's has had to use a single Hellion to scout the edges of the creep. He didn't even spot the 3rd base timing. But, I mean, what would change about his build if he knew the mutas were on the way? Maybe he'd build an missile turret. Otherwise, a bunch of Marines takes out the Overlord. Stim pack is done. Loads up the double drop. And now, usually, this is something you can get away with. Usually, this will be deflected by the Zerg. It might allow you to get a bit of damage done, maybe pick off a Queen or 2. But here, little does ByuN's know, though we might suspect, he is in existential danger. While these minerals are still intact, he's going to drop on the other side of things, and the mutas He reacts in time. The Marines will pop out, but to pick off a couple. And the mutas are revealed. Darts back in towards the main. Missile turrets have begun in the main and the natural, but the mutas are already flying across the map. +1 flyer attack is on the way. Mutas will take out a Hellion and SCV, but the Marines, the medevac's in an awkward position, but there was no missile turret. The third ByuN going to be taking terrible, terrible economic damage. Another SCV picked off as the mutas just flapping their way through. Only 4 or 5 Marines made it out of the main base. He's going to pick off one of the siege tanks, a few more Marines, and there's not enough Marines coming back in the medevacs to really deal with the mutas themselves. SHIN loses 1, loses 2, a couple more. The SCVs are being shaved away, but SHIN only has 67 drones back at home. The muta count is dwindling as he flies. Oof. A strong glare from these Marines will do a lot of damage. The bullets do more. And SHIN, it started off strongly, but tapered quickly. He loses 4 mutas, bringing his count to 7 with the reinforcements back at home. But ByuN took a 3rd command center so quickly, he's bouncing back. He already has the production. He has the missile turrets. Marines are in order of magnitude easier to produce than mass mutalisks, and SHIN does not yet have that critical mass of the mutas to force something more drastic. Like, dare I say, Thors or Widowmines. A second factory is on the way, as ByuN is clearly intending on bringing more tech to bear in this situation. Whether it's drilling claws or for Thors, it remains to be seen. As long as he doesn't try to go mass siege tank, it's going to be helpful. SHIN actually supply block, losing more and more overlords. Might want to consider mining through his destructible rocks here. He's actually, I don't know if this is better or worse, but the Zerg rocks stop bleeding out when the creep reaches them. You can't heal them, but it stops them from dehydrating so quickly, which I don't think is actually helping SHIN here. That interesting quirk of the map mechanic. Thor is on the way. +1 mech plating as well as 2/2 infantry weapons and armor. Meanwhile, SHIN is continuing to double down on the mutas. Everything going into him. +1 flyer carapace. 1/2 on the ground. He has a Bane nest, right? And Bane speed? Yes. Those are kind of a requirement to compete against a ground army. But 16 mutas and counting. ByuN, though, is maintaining his supply and is not falling for it. He's not trying to send out small groups of units that can be digested easily by the Zerg, but instead is sitting back and defending. Almost a Brood War-esque situation here. But SHIN is just now starting his infestation, but his hive a long way off. That means ByuN will have solid 2/2 upgrades and likely be maxed out against an army that doesn't want to take a heads-up fight. SHIN is expanding to the rest of the map. He's got 5 base, well, going on 5 bases. Could probably start expanding towards ByuN's side, and he wouldn't notice for quite a while yet. 3 more racks on the way. It's going to be 8 racks, 2 factories, and a starport. The hive has yet to begin. ByuN closer to maxing out. As those upgrades close in, it's going to be harder and harder. He's actually taking down the Zerg rocks. A few Marines caught out in the midst of everything. Thor is here with the one use of the splash damage mode in this day and age. Thor almost always using its high impact mode, the single target against everything but mutas, as it's usually more reliable. But mutas still get shredded by that explosive payload. I do think SHIN made a mistake by not taking an opportunity to mine up these rocks. ByuN trying to make sure he doesn't get flanked. I mean, SHIN having a struggle with the rocks that usually take themselves out, to be honest. Lings and Banes, but the Thor, quite a backstop here. Has to be very careful not to expend the Banes on it. The missile turret wall. No +3 upgrades for either side so far, but though ByuN should have the space to start them. And he's got the resources. Doesn't want to take out those rocks if SHIN isn't going to himself. Though he did take out the creep, which is indirectly going to kill the rocks. The Bane's trying to roll in. Few Widowmines on the back line. Takes out some of it. Baneling's rolling through. Widowmine spotted. Gonna be dragged into the army. Another Widowmine will backstop it, though. Meanwhile, the Mutas trying to avoid the Thor, but might not be able to fly away forever. An Ultralisk Caver is on the way, and Adrenal Glands as well for SHIN, shoring up that major weakness in far too many of his games. The Adrenal Glands upgrade giving 40% attack speed to Zerglings, the biggest single damage upgrade for them, worth more in almost every scenario than any of the attack upgrades. Almost as much as 2 of them. Marine still zoning out the Mutas, but if SHIN is able to build enough of a bank, I say that, and then I look at the bank, ByuN has built up far more. The Mutas have not gotten much done. He didn't really start the momentum you need to gain with Mutas early on. He didn't carve his way through enough of the defenses. He didn't drive ByuN back to such a small economy. He had to make hard choices. ByuN has a gold base. I'm not saying he's a gold digger, but he's certainly not skimping on the early missile turret defense. The TPM continues to raise, skyrocket if you would, just like their attacks. And mass missile turret to zone out the Mutas, enough Marines on the ground to cover, Marauders being added into the composition to make it more complicated. And SHIN doesn't have any Ultras on the way because he's actually maxed out. He's going to be forced to pick a fight. The Mutas just obliterate a drop. But the army on the field, well, ooh, just melted by the Lings and Banes. Making sure the Banelings don't hit the Marauders. Just not a prime target for them. Mutas flocking back towards the center. SHIN wins the fight. He's going to be able to clean up many of the mines. Drilling Claws is only halfway done, but Ghosts are on the way. 4 more Barracks. He's going to have a dozen Barracks. And like 12 command centers. 2 more orbitals and a planetary on the way. A full perimeter defense of missile turrets. Infantry weapons level 3 and armor. Going to be completed. As we get to that awkward scenario where the Zerg is kind of far behind on the upgrades. Well, I say that and then I look. +3 melee and Carapace are finishing very soon. Ghost Cloak though. 15, 16 missile turrets. 14 Mutas on the field, slowly getting whittled down. I don't think SHIN is going to be rebuilding them. Unfortunately, not the game changer he was hoping for. But the Banelings rolling through the Ultras. Chitinous plating is done. Ultra speed is not, though. That makes it a little bit easier for the Ghost to line up their snipes. The Banelings just evaporating as he's forced to turn tail. The Mutas fly a little bit too close to the Marines. Loses a couple more. SHIN is expanding. Oh, he's trying to pull a Serral. If you saw the Serral series from not too long ago, Serral winning a game outright on this map exclusively because he expanded to the opposite corner. I believe against Cure. A surprisingly unlikely to be scouted corner here, but SHIN does have way more in the bank. He's got a gold base of his own. He's taken the income lead, though not by a huge margin. Mass missile turret, great against Mutas, helpful against Infestors. Generally jamming things up. 2 more starports on the way as well. The Ultras trundling around the corner. The Ghosts will line up their shots and knock out another one of them. And this is a terrible angle coming down here. The right one for ByuN right around the corner. And, well, the Banelings are rolling through, but the Marines and Ghosts are standing their ground. The Ultras getting tripped up on everything else. One of them hitting the planetary. And that was not a fight. That was a massacre. SHIN ends up losing a huge chunk of his army, getting almost nothing of ByuN's. He will be losing the gold base, more than likely. The gold minerals forming quite a choke point as well. 5 more Ultras on the way. As an arguably great man, Hydra once said, but I'm far ahead and I want to lose. I build Ultras. I don't think SHIN was too far ahead. And I don't think he wants to lose, yet here we are. The Ultras, Banelings rolling in. It looks good, but it feels worse. The baneling's killing maybe 2 or 3 marines, a ghost. But SHIN has exhausted his entire gas bank. ByuN maintains a similar level. He's got 7 orbital commands. He's building mass liberator. I don't think he has a fusion core, but he's getting a second armory. 4 liberators at a time. There's still a few mutas intact, but oh my. Widow mines splash across the mutalisks. The ghosts line up their shots. And, well, he picks up. The Widow Mine almost takes out a critical mass of medevacs, but the mutas are already dead in this fight. They're not going to be able to chase it down. The planetary is overrun. But the vast majority of the bio army... Liberators sieging. The Venn diagram of freedom. Combining with the Widow Mines. Overlapping fields of fire. It feels like SHIN has tried very little and is almost out of ideas. Mass Changeling being added in. I guess not that many changelings, but... More banelings on the way. Ultras and banelings, a few corruptors to help deal with the liberators. But there's already a dozen ghosts, and the ultras are just wandering off directly into the ghost line of fire. Oh, it's a disastrous situation. SHIN really wanted to make the mutas work. And despite a massive income advantage, he's lost almost twice as many resources. Wow. 8,500 to just 2,700 Vespene gas. An obscene level of efficiency. And while ByuN is one of the most cost-effective unit compositions in the game, SHIN certainly hasn't helped himself with these engagements. It has been just as much SHIN fighting into an entrenched position as ByuN forcing that fight. Another scattering of missile turrets to zone things out. You saw the corruptors. The liberators are actually fighting them, which they do mostly emotional damage in anti-air mode. With +3 ship weapons, maybe we can have a conversation, but that's not what the liberators are for. Ghost line up some shots. SHIN is actually mining from that bottom left corner. Though, ByuN is likely going to expand there momentarily. Vehicle plating level 3 is done. SHIN has a similar army to one we've seen several times before. He does have the corruptors, but a notable and remarkable lack of infestors, which is why I'm remarking on it. The Lings, Ultras, Baneling. Oh, the Widow Mines getting some juicy connections. The turret lines buffering. Widow Mines slamming into the corruptors. And SHIN is... He's rolling through, but the ghost will cloak. There's no overseers anywhere in sight. And again, ByuN driven back, but only to take up a better position to fire off his ghost shots. SHIN still has the income, but 40,000 to 23,000 resources. ByuN was mining, he's mining from both sides of the former gold base. One command center for each gas geyser. It's an odd look. It looks like a campaign mission, but they're just mining from nothing. But the scans scattered across the board. The sensor tower still doesn't see the creep, though technically if you look directly at it. SHIN not even maxed out. He's in deep SHIN right now. The kindness plating is good, but not good enough to turn this tide. ByuN strongly defending. And I feel like as soon as that base in the bottom left is scouted, that last line of hope for SHIN will be shattered. Just a refusal to go for the late game spellcasters. Well, by the time he maybe thought about it, he didn't have the resources, and the overlapping liberators just annihilating the ultras. The ghosts taking out the corruptors. ByuN didn't even know about the base of the bottom left corner, and it didn't even matter. a dominant performance from ByuN. The mutas gave him a little bit of strife, but then he looked just be unstoppable. Well, now we go to Ultralisk, and they're gonna need it after that performance. ByuN 1-0. Shin falling into that tunnel vision mindset that so many Zergs get locked into. When you're in the moment, and when you're fighting against that sort of, it really feels like you can't afford a tech switch. You need to get something done now before the Terran gets entrenched. They get too many ghosts. They get too many liberators. But I feel like one Infestor or a couple Vipers are probably a better investment than a couple more Ultras. But that's why I'm here to backseat. Loudly and dramatically. And with constant begging for likes and subscribes. Backseat nonetheless. A 15 hatch with an Overlord after about the quickest hatch you can get. I think this is what Shin did last game. That was a great start, remember. He killed the Reaper, he killed SCVs, he delayed the command center. You can't beg for much more in the early game of Zerg. He got the mutas out uncontested. But he just didn't use that space to get to hive tech or really take advantage of it. So, we'll see. ByuN falling back to the classics. We've got the Reapers on the way. The 2-Rax Reaper build, he seems convinced, is going to be a thing, at least a couple months out of every year. Though I'm not convinced that ByuN knows what year it is, and just falls back to whatever default. No, it's Reapers and then Marines. And Medevacs, of course. So, SCV gets stuck in a prison of its own design. It's hilarious that they can actually do that, except when it happens to me, in which case it's dumb and stupid. In that order. Reaper. But the Queen's gonna be out quite quickly. Second Reaper's heading across. Are we going for 3? No, he actually cancels the third Reaper on not seeing a third base, it looks like. So just a little bit of Reaper poking and prodding. Just a little bit of teasing, as they call it. Harassment, as the Queens claim it to be. Now Shin not going for a third base. Last game he went for the lair rush. Straight into the mutas. It was pretty well telegraphed, but ByuN's still not very aware of it. It looks very similar this game. And a lair is on the way 3 minutes into the game. I mean, it opens up a lot of options, but the one thing it doesn't do is help your economy. That was the sticking point, I think, for Shin. By the time he got that overwhelming economy, ByuN was perfectly fine as well. This map does not have any gold bases to take advantage of as a 4th base. It is less likely that Shin will be shoved into some absolutely terrible choke points, but still, it can be very difficult. Roach 1's on the way. Very importantly, well, now getting gases 2 and 3. But I'm almost certain we're headed a different direction this time. Not investing in the gas about as soon as possible, but instead as a potential follow-up, making sure it's at 39 to 29 workers. But ByuN does have 3 command centers on the way. He's going to have a 3rd command center quicker than the Zerg has a 3rd hatch. Cancels the Banshee, builds a Raven. The Overlord is technically in range, and... No, don't... What? Yeah, I see it. No, don't tell me how it feels. Yeah. Stop. ByuN! Don't listen. ByuN with a very suspiciously timed, like 4.5 minutes in the game. He's building a Raven. Which, what? Who builds a Raven? That's for YouTube comments to ask, why don't they ever build a Raven for detection? All right? Everyone knows you don't build a Raven. If you wanted a mobile turret platform, you just bring your SCVs. But I have no idea what ByuN said. But if I saw someone typing to me at 4.5 minutes in the game on the ladder, I'd immediately be suspicious. ByuN does have a history of bantering with his opponents, but even for him, it's rare to just randomly pop out a comment. But here we go. ByuN has added the Raven into the composition and is going to use it to clear creep. Somebody have this on their bingo card or, like, placed a bet or something? Now, the thing is, a Raven is not a medevac. It's not a Banshee. It doesn't have any direct way to deal with those roaches, though anti-armor missile and auto turrets could be quite helpful against them. Just in general, anti-armor missile is always helpful. It's just delaying your medevacs or other units, and controlling the Raven alongside everything else is usually does not always go amazing. Let's put it that way. And well, SHIN making up for the mistakes of last game already with the Scarlet style 2 Infestors in production. You know, even though it's unlikely to actually kill Marines outright, being able to hold them down for long enough for your units to close in before they slurp up into the medevacs and yeet off into the distance, well, I think that's worth something. Those even against Clem, the 2 or 3 Infestors before Hive. And by the way, that's an insanely fast Hive. The Hive is going to be done just after 7 minutes. That is almost as quick as you can get it while still building any other units. So, rushing up to Hive Tech, and I have my suspicions that Ultras may see even more love, but here come the Infestors. And apparently not spotted by the medevacs, throws out a muddy fungal, chains it together, the roaches and ravagers. And the Marines will be pulled back into the medevacs, half of them slaughtered, the other half with a traumatizing story to tell, and very little HP between them. Somehow the Reaper survived. Siege tank setting up, but ByuN has lost all of the map control, but the Raven did indeed survive. Already, an Ultralisk cavern is on the way. And this time around, ByuN not going to have ghosts, not going to have liberators. In fact, he's barely going to have any. He's going to have a bunch of Marines and tanks. This is about the ideals. And adrenal glands as well. SHIN shoring up that weak point. Wasn't enough last game to turn the tides, but clearly an indicator that he hasn't completely forgotten arguably the most important late-game upgrade for Zerglings at all. Marines driven away for now. Infestor is also helping to intimidate. Either unwilling or unable to use that fungal. And so far, ByuN has not even seen the main base. He technically doesn't know for sure it exists. At the very least, he doesn't know there's a hive. Though the Infestors give away some of it. He can suspect it's going to be a quick hive, though the speed of these Ultras may come as a big surprise. Anti-armor missile. Honestly, anti-armor missile may be something of a soft counter to the Ultralisk. If ByuN can use it at the right time, catches a few of the Marines. SHIN trying to hold on to those 4 bases. Not going to be able to make much happen out on the map until he has chitinous plating and adrenal glands. That extra armor and attack speed makes all the difference. Sometimes between completely overrunning an army and the Terran just healing through it. ByuN will have 2-2 done. The Zerglings spotting that 4th command center ready to land. Couple more medevacs. Baneling nest is now on the way. Interesting, no banelings up to this point. We needed the gas, but here come the ultras. ByuN is well set up, but barely has any marauders, only a couple siege tanks, but unfortunately one of the infestors is obliterated right at the start. Anti-armor missile will coat the vast majority of the army in a very effective Dorito dust, giving ByuN maybe a chance to defend against this more conventionally. The ultras being targeted, trundling up the ramp. They don't have speed done. Widowmines obliterating the front lines. Ultras dropping like flies as opposed to massive war beasts. And not only is ByuN left unbroken, but he's actually chasing the ultras back across the field. ByuN, quickly, kill your Raven before Terrans feel obligated to build one of those units that is incredibly effective in the late game. No, not ghosts. No, not liberators. No, not medevacs. The Raven. I don't know. The Raven completely saving that fight, turning what could have been a potentially game-ending army into not a trivial one, but certainly a manageable one. Completely negating the chitinous plating with the anti-armor missile. +2, -2. And the lack of ultra speed. Hey! Steve, where? Steve, come back! Oh, no. Well, at Ultralisk using Apple Maps. +3 infantry weapons and armor on the way. Concussive shells is done, though. It doesn't work on massive units. Those ultras and your mother will remain undeterred. Chitinous plating. Well, anti-armor missile thrown out, but the ultra able to split away. A bit of social distancing avoids most of the trouble. And now ByuN, not quite on the open field, but close enough to it. SHIN willing to engage. +2 melee attacks about to complete. Ultras closing in. Banelings getting close, though they don't have speed completed. Crossing the bridge into a choke point, but the corrosive bombs knock down both Liberator. The medevacs helping the Marines and Marauders in full retreat. But it's just not enough to deal with the tide of Zerg rolling in. No anti-armor missile. No tanks to back it up. The Liberator's knocked down. The Raven finally comes back home, but it's ByuN who's getting Edgar Allan Poe'd, and right now, the chitinous plating ultras, sure, the anti-armor missile will make them feel maybe either uncomfortable and or fabulous, but it's too little, and it might have been too late. ByuN is building 6 command centers at a time, which seems a little bit optimistic at this stage of the game. The Ghost will line up a couple shots. Anti-armor missile does nothing to help the spell casting, but Snipe doesn't really need any help to take out the ultras. That half a dozen command center seems a bit optimistic. More banelings on the way right outside the base. And SHIN is knocking on the door. I don't know if ByuN has enough to answer before he barrels through it. ByuN headed the other direction, while SHIN, the changelings, spot the army out of position. The ultras and Banes come back in. He's gonna barrel through the base. Corrosive about to knock down one of the command centers. Ultras to cleave through the one on the ground. Doesn't quite kill one. It will drop down immediately. Scatters out a cover for his retreat. And the Spire is on the way. SHIN has shored up every single mistake he made in the last game. Yeah, it's a bit map dependent. But the Infestors added into the composition. The Ultras used for clear objectives. A Spire on the way. The upgrades at comparable timings. SHIN has taken the mistakes he made in game number 1, adapted, evolved, and overcome. Or he just didn't get distracted building mutas, which are a liability at the best of times. I'm so sorry, mutas. I wish you didn't suck so hard. The Raven still alive, adding so much help. Without that Raven, ByuN would have already lost this game. But as it stands, ByuN still in a precarious position. Not out of it yet. Chitinous plating on the ultra at the front. Some Zerglings at the back. Banelings rolling through. Another planetary will be taken down as the army is chased by the Banelings. The base is crumbling before the overwhelming acid. And now, ByuN down 50 supply. He's going to lose yet another 4th base. The Ghosts alongside it. The SCVs as well as a consolation. Will survive. There's another command center landed at the 9 o'clock, but SHIN has the map. And he's willing to wield it as an economic sledgehammer. This time around, the Ultras make a whole lot of sense. And SHIN making a lot more sense than ByuN out on the map. with this many minerals and gas. Another command center gonna float over. But at this stage, the army... How many infestors? 4 infestors scattered throughout. Another one taken down, detected by the Raven. I'm just saying. For all of you out there like, why don't you just build a... Vindication! Well, the Raven's certainly keeping ByuN in it. It survived the entire game. And continuing. There's an army in the bottom right. Hatchery will be popped before it can really begin. Another anti-armor missile coating half of the Zerg forces. And the bio army, but he's just going to barrel into it. The Ultra trying to zone out. Going for the objective. Splits off a bit. Banelings roll into the mineral line. Infestor standing by. Target fired by the planetary. The bio army cloven in twain by the Ultras and the Zerglings. Ghosts will line up some shots and catch the retreating Ultra. There's a Reaper at the watch. How did you get there? Let the boy watch. I don't... Reaper trying to get in on the action. ByuN will take more than his pound of flesh on the way out, but SHIN splitting against the Widowmines, denying bases. ByuN does not have the income. SHIN stepping up. I am impressed by how quickly he adapted. Well, I'm sure he knew. I will tell you, 1/3 Zerg myself. Not a Zerg experience in not throwing the game, but getting so tunnel visioned on a unit composition and so convinced you need to just keep building it that you miss the whole forest because your trees are burning. And that was the Mutas and the Ultras last game. But this time around, SHIN just objective focused. He's got +2 flyer attack on the way as well. So when he does eventually break out the Corruptors, if necessary, maybe the Raven will eventually die, as well as sweeping everything else out of the sky. But we'll see if ByuN's ground forces are the ones who will die. As the Fungals will not let him slide. Chitinous plating again, negated by the anti-armor missile. But ByuN driven back in a single Ultra, having an absolute field day cleaving through the SCVs. Overstayed his welcome. Obliterated by the Marauders, but still. ByuN down to 41 SCVs. Still has 6 orbital commands, of course. But SHIN is hitting him from both sides. And not in a fun way. Infestor taken out. Banelings still get a few Marine kills. And Zergling's not going to be taken out nearly quickly enough to deal for the Liberators to be... Ooh, takes out an Infestor. Gets incinerated. Hatchery is dead. Ultras. Several gunned down. But a few of you may die. But that's a sacrifice SHIN is more than willing to make. Lings and Banes and the pincer maneuver coming together, but ByuN able to drive back one side of it. ByuN still has more army supply. The Raven just chilling. ByuN has lost track of it multiple times, but it keeps coming home like a kicked puppy. And that's how Ravens sometimes feel for Terran, but... The Ghosts try to get into the medevacs before they get melted or eviscerated by the Ultras. But SHIN just coming in again. The scan spots the Infestor, but I don't think the Infestor is needed at this stage. ByuN down to less SCVs than he started with. Picks off another Ultra. Has still been remarkably cost-effective, but... I mean, considering the situation. But he's down to 7 minerals. Where's the Raven? It lives. He might not have the money to repair momentarily, but for now it lives. A trail of Widowmine breadcrumbs Another anti-armor missile. ByuN refuses to tap it out. Army supplies dead even at 112, 115. The Raven may finally die, and with it, hope. Pulls back. There's a dozen Widowmons back there. SHIN's still very reluctant to engage outright. Anti-armor missile hits half the medevacs as well. Drags in the Widowmon, hits over the army. The Raven is finally dead. And with it, ByuN. 100 supply down. SHIN strikes back with a vengeance, shoring up almost every weakness from the previous game. ByuN tried to play it out in a similar fashion, though mixing in that Raven. Was the Raven a net positive, or did it keep him so distracted that he wasn't able to get as much damage done? You be the judge. Are Terrans just lazy if they don't build it? Or could I have stopped that sentence halfway through? Well. All tied up. Like I said, these matches are always a roller coaster. It feels like they... Honestly, both of them play so much in so many tournaments. It does feel like they have try hard and then serious business level. And those are two different things. Like obviously they're putting on a solid effort. But sometimes they crank it up. Even in some of these online tournaments. It felt like SHIN did exactly that. Like, he woke up after game and like, oh yeah, this is not a ladder game. ByuN, back to the 2 ranks. I'll say, he's going to make it work. I remember there were like 3 or 4 years after ByuN got the Reaper nerfed for the second time. Okay, originally, the Reaper grenade was on a 7-second cooldown, and it did 10 damage. The first nerf was decreasing the cooldown, doubling, 14 seconds. And then the second nerf was decreasing the damage to 5. Because ByuN kept using Reapers. It was like 3 or 4 years, and then, I believe it was a series against Dark, of course, where ByuN just did the 2 Rex Reaper like 4 games in a row. And he lost. Like 3 in a row. And Dark asked him on the last game, how long are you going to keep doing this? And then ByuN said, until it works. And that build actually became the meta for like a year again. He won that game. And then he tried it again and lost horribly because Dark hard countered it. But which is, you know, those two in a nutshell. SHIN filling some very sizable shoes there, but... and facing off against ByuN. And this time around, we've got even more on the way. It's gonna be the Reapers with 3 CC behind it. Jumps up to the main of the Zerglings. Waiting for it. Obviously, the Overlord having to see it. Well, with the Queens now costing 175. All right, 25 minerals more. We're worth it! I didn't say anything. You were thinking it! Sorry, I am... With the Queens now costing 175, maybe the Reapers will find a little more success. Not like Terran is hurting for... options in the early game against Zerg. But there's definitely a bit more leeway to get damage done with those Reapers. Still, the reason why you don't see them as often is it's a lot easier to hard counter than, say, Hellions and Banshees. Like, there is no hard counter to Hellions and Banshees that are actively avoiding you. Whereas Reapers are more vulnerable to Zerglings ripping them apart or Roach all-ins. Because you simply don't have... well, mostly the Banshees, in order to kind of soft counter them. And again, instead of bothering with trying to take a 3rd hatchery quickly, SHIN will just get a lair and a Roach Worm. Will he try the mutas again? He's getting 4 gas, but not particularly early on. The scouting Hellion's on the way. It's going to be roach speed. I mean, it's pretty obvious what the follow-up is here. It's obviously going to be a bunch of dudes with drugs, guns, and a very vocal and accented hatred of illegal aliens. Which, while I'm very familiar with that, isn't necessarily the ideal for Zergs or, you know, many others. But 7 roaches on the way. The roaches is just a meat shield. Shin at 44 drones. 2 base saturation. No more than that. This is a lot less drones than he'd like in a full-on macro game. I think he's going for effectively an all-in. Just a roach hammer smash to try to break down ByuN before he can get a critical mass of bio and even siege tanks. Get off my creep! Yeah, you got him, Brenda. Oh, shut up, Susan. I've had enough! Okay, Brenda. Acknowledge me! ByuN now has more SCVs, clearly not anticipating the Shin goes off the other side. Another weakness of not having the Banshee. It's a lot harder to scout exactly this. The timing perfect. Some of the Marines actually end up going the wrong way. I think that was just a pathing issue. And now, well, don't have that issue anymore. Also don't have the Marines. The tech lab on the outside. Easily taken out by the Roach Ravager. Siege tank, sieging up. Big hit on the critical mass of the Roaches down the center, and the Marines are just stimming forward. Goes into the Ravagers to try to heal them up. More Roaches coming through. 50 drones behind. Another big siege tank hit. A whole lot of damage there coming out from one tank, but ByuN manages to save it at the last moment. The corrosive bow's not able to land. Should be able to get another shot, but a siege tank. Ooh, grenades. Yeah, this is not going great for ByuN. Losing some of his SCVs, a lot of his Marines. The Ravagers are breaking through. The mule dropped to block! Wow, what a play by ByuN to lock the Ravagers in. You are locked in here with me. Though, it doesn't seem like ByuN has enough to back up such a gratuitous play. That last siege tank shot. Taking out the vast majority of the Roaches. The mules to block it in. An inspired move. But unfortunately, ByuN, his economy has been obliterated. 28 SCVs dead. Shin at 67 drones to just 32 SCVs. Mules are good, but I don't think they're that good. Another key point, combat shield was taken out. Without combat shield, the +1/+1 is not nearly as helpful. Having 10 more HP on the Marines to enable those stims to have much less of an impact. Shin just needs to play it incredibly safe now. He doesn't know exactly how poor ByuN is, but he certainly knows that he's hurting. All he has to do is keep him off of third base. There is a limited amount of mining you can do with mules on 2 bases. He's going to mine out so quickly. Guess he had a bit of a surplus, so has a 4th command center on the way. ByuN somehow is always building 1 to 3 more command centers, no matter how few SCVs. It's just a rule. Alright? It's called investing. Roach Ravager. Shin, 72 drones. 4 bases. +1 ranged attack, +2 carapace on the way. A GG of Roach Ravagers coming across the map. And unless Shin fumbles it at the goal line and immediately goes into cardiac arrest, I think it's unlikely ByuN is going to hold. And even then, a contaminate on one of the factories delays a siege tank. +2 Carapace is done. I think he's waiting until +1 ranged attack is finishing up. And then it's time for Mr. Zergachev to tear down this wall. ByuN has his Marines spread, but right now it's 23 Roaches and 14 Ravagers against 20 Marines and 4 Siege Tanks. The supply depots getting gunned down by the machine gun biles. Another wave of depots trying to zone things out. You don't want to actually wall off, just funnel. Make the siege tanks that much more valuable. The boys are pulled, but the corrosive biles are breaking through, scattering across the tanks. Good hits across the board. More SCVs dead. There weren't nearly enough Marines. There weren't enough tanks. He can't stop them. SHIN is going to match point. A decisive victory. Shuts down the Reapers. Follows up and deals, well, a very well-timed. And that, I think, is a good demonstration why the Reaper builds are less popular. It's so... If you don't get the damage done with the Reapers, it's pretty obvious what your follow-up is. All right? There's not going to be a battlecruiser. There's not going to be a Banshee. What I'm trying to say is there's not starport units. And if you don't have that air superiority, well, the Zerg can overrun you on the ground. That's one thing they're very good at. Possibly the only thing. ByuN, yet again, third time's the charm. Already setting up to wall off on the low ground. But 2 games in a row, he's gone. But he hasn't gone mass Reaper. Okay, he's made 2 and then 3pers. All right. Are you prepared to go all the way, ByuN? All right. There's Barracks number 1. There's also some builds where you just wall off with a factory on the low ground, but... That... Where are you going? I was... ByuN. Really? Okay. 3 racks Reaper. And what SHIN doesn't know can very much hurt him. He's shown he can defend against this. Well, he's shown he can defend against the Reaper pressure. But this is mass Reaper. This is the older school style of Reapers or die trying. So, SHIN, I'm sure he fears the Reaper man. But he may not realize how much he should. This is all going to rely on the first Reapers setting the pace of the game. They don't have to win it, but they have to do enough damage to keep SHIN from coming across the map and ruining everything. But that third Rax and just a couple extra Reapers can make all the difference. ByuN is putting it all on the line here. He's no stranger to proxy Rex as being the overlord. He doesn't even hide the SCV. SHIN, I don't know if he noticed that it was... The diva announcer. I'm sure, well, I guess it's more accurate in Korean, but every time. I don't know why I'm surprised. What is ByuN using? Reapers? A few Brenda bounces. He's rallying the Reapers to the other Reapers, because of course he is. Actually, let's watch ByuN's Reaper micro. This is mass Reaper. Finally! ByuN's signature build! Throws him out there. Microing back. Command center on the way. And diving in. And the... Oh, wow. The Zergling speed is so late. SHIN thought this was a normal build. But the grenades are landing. If he can get any of the queens before Transfuse is ready, that's a deciding characteristic. That's 5, 6 Reapers, and 3 more on the way. He's going to the Ocha. Is there enough for Transfuse? It doesn't look like it. Bounces another queen out of the way. Throws the grenades deep past the first line of the queens. Another one. Throws it around. More SCVs back at home. The Reapers continue to be in production. More Barracks on the way, because of course there are. ByuN falling back to his oldest build. But transfuse while the queen's in the air, reliving that experience before the war. The Reaper's closing in. And another queen. And another one. Regicide being committed. A third queen! Oh no, they're all dead. The monarchy has been entirely dismantled. Zergling's on the way. And ByuN. Oh no. Zergling speed is still 15 seconds out. The last queen. 5 drones dead. SHIN does not have a third. Zergling speed will be done. That might be enough. Well, the grenades will actually bounce the Reapers further away. And the Reaper... Oh, they get up to the high ground. He's eventually going to take them out. But this is exactly what I was talking about. He needs to take the tempo advantage of the game. And I think he certainly did. He slaughtered 4 queens. He got... what, 5 drones, 25 Zerglings, building a bunker back at home. But there's no Bane Nest on the way. He might be able to just take out the stim. I think it might be worth it. It's already halfway done, but 3 Marines. SHIN, if he had a Bane Nest on the way, he might be able to break through and just end the game. But he did not anticipate the commit. Like, you filthy, disgusting, beautiful Terran. He didn't think ByuN would commit that hard. But do you know who you're playing against? Dark would have believed him. Dark would have prepared. Dark would have done a counter run. But Dark isn't here. He's doing his obligatory military service, and we hope he's back. And there's something for him to come back to in a year and a half. Overseer on the way. It was another quick lair from SHIN. I guess relatively. Oh no, the Zerglings. The Mass Reaper getting the damage done. But it's still a precarious position for ByuN. The Reapers, they had their fun. But now their time is done. And right now he's going for 1-1. But as for economy, he doesn't really have a ton. And the Overseer? Well, had its day in the sun. Won't be able to outrun the Marines. And where do we go from here? Medevacs. And like and subscribe. I try. Jimmy, edit that to sound better. The Roach Ravager. SHIN trying... This is like the knockoff cover version. This is the karaoke version of last game. This is the same thing, but with a way less roaches against way more supply. Though ByuN is in the center of the map, and SHIN knows that. Combat Shields is done. 1-1 is completed. The Marines are everywhere. It's just Marines and medevacs. So ByuN in his comfort zone right now. They stim back. Another group. Well, the Corrosive Belt. The boys are pulled off the line. Who's flanking who? The Ravagers are gunned down. The 1-1 upgrades are huge here with those combat shields. But ByuN is on the ropes. Corrosive Bile dodges back. SCVs obliterated by the Biles. He's breaking through the bunkers. The siege tank will help out so much. But ByuN again in a tough position. I thought this would get shut down easily, but instead it says, well, oh, you need to close all these programs first. What, Task Manager? You can't shut that down yourself, Windows? Well, the window for attacking is quickly closing. As ByuN strikes back with the Marines, the SCVs being slaughtered by the dozen, 22 of them dead, but the Ravagers being forced back by the Marines. Half a dozen of them, enough to drive the Ravagers at least back for now. 2-2 is on the way. SHIN, of 30 supply, but he only has 46 drones. He still needs to make this happen, because ByuN has 4 mules mining. He's actually got the income advantage. 24 SCVs might be dead. But ByuN is almost even on workers, and with those upgrades, he actually has a huge advantage. If he's not knocked outright out of the game, SHIN is going to have an uphill battle in every sense of the word. Those 2-2 upgrades. ByuN investing so far in the future yet again may pay off. I guess that's why they call them futures. But the future is now, SHIN. You must deal with this army. It's only going to get worse. He hasn't built a single drone back at home. The Roaches and Ravagers. 2-2 upgrades finishing up the siege tanks. Trying to box out. Might be able to take out one. Corrosive Bowels being used on the tanks. 2-2 completed. And the Marines. 3 upgrade advantage. A couple SCVs getting in on the action. Actually kind of tanky now. And despite being up 16 supply, both players know how important those upgrades are. ByuN ties up the series off the back of a disgustingly bold and completely on-brand proxy Rex into Mass Reaper build. ByuN is back, baby. We're going to the ace match. I didn't realize how accurate it would be. The roller coaster back and forth. ByuN doubling down on his Reaper builds. SHIN caught off guard. Unable to recover. And now, it's a best of one. Jimmy. That is a salt-inducing loss. As SHIN, after playing those 2 games before it, losing to that, that just... it feels bad. You feel like you've dealt with the Reapers, and that's the game he decides to break out the 3 racks. That extra Reaper... Now, if SHIN just goes for a normal Zergling speed timing, ByuN loses. Alright, he has enough SHIN has enough lings, and he just surrounds and kills him. But because he just got a little greedy, he was trying to cut those corners, well, it was ByuN who got the edge. Command center! Ah. He can't keep getting away with it. Dark would have gone for a 12. And after he already kind of salted the earth with that last build, it's a genius strategical move, but from a human perspective, not like the Terrans try to worry about that, but ByuN has been a world champion. We talked about Dark. I think when he puts his mind to it, there are few players who have played more extended series than ByuN in the game. He's been a pro since, I want to say 2010, but at least 2011. He's won a world championship. He's won several GSLs. He's one of the very few players who had a career, did their obligatory military service, came back, and is still successful. He's still ranked in the top 10 players today. I don't think he ever really found that microing the SUV to mine slightly faster, cutting half a second of travel time. But he is one of only a handful of players that have come back from their military service. There are other players who attempted it. Stats, TY, though TY went, I think he's still playing Brood, but Tasia, Innovation, but only a few of them have ever seen anything close to their previous success. ByuN and Hero are the major exceptions to the rule so far. So hopefully they can keep it up. Though both of them with their own unique attributes in their elderly age. Which is a nice way to put it, I think. All right, they've had a lot of time to develop their unique habits. And by that I mean a seeming inability to change what could be considered big mistakes that have just become endearing over time. All right, they're personality traits. Not walling off or using or using the select all army hotkey for hero. Yeah, it's TVZ, and we're still trash talking hero. I know. There's always some like, what, are you gonna trash talk hero every single well, when he stops acting like he does, which is probably never, and we love him for it, then I will. But that would be boring, and I doubt he will at this stage. All right, he's one of the few players that's older than me. ByuN's is actually, I think, 2 months younger than me, so still a spring chicken, which comes after winter, obviously. But would you believe it? He's doing 2 medevacs full of Stimmarine. Wow, that's going to be quick. The command center first. The medevacs coming across the map. That's going to be just after 4:30. Shin with some roaches on the way. A pretty obscenely fast medevac drop, but very on brand. Yeah, that's heroes work. ByuN's is Marines and medevacs. All roads. He'll go mech, and he'll still play it like he has Marines and medevacs. And he's so good at it. The thing is, Clem has shown... Like, ByuN is Clem's metaphorical father. He's not quite old enough for it not to be really concerning if he was his literal father. But at 10 years older and a full generation of StarCraft, the fact that ByuN is still going and still comparable and still occasionally beats Clem, though Clem plays Protoss against him now. But clearly an inspiration. I'm sure Clem's inspiration throughout, well, before he really had his pro career. The double medevac drop into the... Brenda! How many times? It was your job to do the creep today! Well, what day is it? Does the week start on Sunday or Monday? But why are you using the Terran calendar? I did the creep yesterday. Well, who's keeping track of that? How do you have memory of yesterday? It's a hive. It's like a genetic thing, like a hive mind thing. Well, it's still your job. Sorry. All right. Blacked out for a moment. But the double medevac still keeping Shin busy, but has not found that much success. I guess the biggest success is always keeping them off of 4th base, keeping the drone count down. That doesn't get you all the way there. All right, that means they're still building army. Eventually you have to deal with that. But ByuN, they didn't have a 3rd command center very early on. This is a much older school style of 2 base pressure into much later 3rd. Much more, honestly, Terran versus Protoss-esque strategy. But Shin, I think, far off balance right now. After the series we've had. Kind of getting whiplash from the sort of games we've been playing. Going from proxy 3 racks into command center first, the other end of the spectrum. And we all know Terrans are on there somewhere. Infestation pit is on the way. But Shin is a mediocre economy. Though ByuN just now taking his 3rd command center. And he's not going to have a huge upgrade advantage. Zergling doesn't even have speed. Shin realizing or finding space for it now. Plenty of Roach Ravager out there. Yeah, ByuN's not going to have a huge economy. He's not going to have the upgrades, but he does have a lot of army supply on the field, and Shin is clearly on defense. Doesn't have the Roach Ravager count to go battering down the base. Baneling nest on the way. Hive. Just begun. Infestors. Added into the composition. 79 drones now for Shin. So, ByuN does have to start taking larger chunks out of the Zerg soon. Otherwise, he runs the risk of getting overrun outright. Medevacs holding it together. Creep spread. Kept at bay. But the rest of the army's headed across. Ultralisk Cavern is back. But a long way off, and now the siege tanks. Shin has no idea here. In fact, he's gonna siege up. The Ravager's well out of range to actually get any hits. And a punishing volley will take out a lot of this. The scan, he spots the edges of the Infestors. Roach is gonna get gunned down. And a very good start to the fight for ByuN, as the siege tanks are leapfrogging forward. Marines and Marauders throws out a fungal. Siege tanks well spread. Baneling speed isn't even done here. So Shin, a Ravager caught in by the Banelings, a prison of his own design. But without Baneling speed, it's almost impossible to engage this anywhere close to effectively. He's waiting it out. The hatchery nearly dead. He decides to go that moment. Fungal doesn't catch anything. That beautiful spread, I can't believe it's not butter. Fires off some corrosive bile. Doesn't even hit the tank. Shin misses the shot. ByuN has a 4th command center on location. He just took out Shin's 4th hatchery. Shin still has the supply, but it's all in roaches and Ravagers. Chitinous plating is on the way, but I don't think Ultralisks are the solution to this unit composition. Mass siege tank. He's going to have +2 infantry weapons on the ground, adding Marauders into the composition. Another army on the left side. But ByuN just slow pushing across the map. Another tank gets taken out, but a couple Ravagers for the cost. ByuN pushing Shin back into his own base. A lot of money in the bank for ByuN, actually. Not keeping up on the production. I guess that's one of those good problems, though. Like having too many people liking and subscribing. Or so I hear. Just holding this position. He knows the base is taken over to the left side. ByuN scanning and actually taking out the creep right down the center of the natural fungal. Mildly inconveniences a few Marines. Oh, 1 Ultralisk is on the way. Shin is maxed out, but you can't help but feel that ByuN has the advantage here. He has the upgrades. The +2 Carapace is done. +3/2 is on the way. That siege tank count is still a lot to be reckoned with. Siege tanks pounding their way through. Double medevac drop gonna drag a lot of the army back. There's no anti-air built in. There's only 3 queens. The Infestor. Baneling's trying to find something. Fungal down the center, but the Banelings can't close the distance. Another. He just doesn't have enough damage. The Infestor is imploded. The corrosive bows actually get decent damage, but the hatchery is the accent on top here. Ultralisk, he doesn't actually take out the hatchery. The single queen trying to deal with the medevacs over to the right side. Ghost Academy's on the way. And ByuN maybe got a little bit greedy, bit off some more than he could chew. The hatchery, a strong glance away from death by some of these Marauders. A parade push coming out of the base, but he's actually trapped in some of his Marines and Marauders by his barracks and his supply depots. Ultras, no speed done quite yet. Scatter some corrosive bows to take out the Widow Mines. Cutting back for now. Without the Infestors to hold things in place, though, ByuN should be able to deal with the Ultralisks. More popping out. The hatchery itself doesn't quite get it. Shin backed off. Siege tanks on the high ground, but the medevacs are in position to retreat. Not going to do so. Slides around the corner. Kites the Ultralisk back. And easily cuts through them. Just tearing through everything in front. Corrosive bow thrown out. Completely misses the mark. Shin will eventually close in on this brave siege tank. 20 kills and so much damage. A single Marauder. Alright, just gives up on that idea. ByuN is taking the supply lead. When you drive the creep back this far and have full control of the map, it's just a matter of time. Shin, he's relying on that unit composition. Ultras, if you're ahead, can be a strong tool for closing the game or taking a decisive advantage. When you're behind, off of creep, they just, they're a glaring issue. They're pretty much target practice for a micro-heavy Terran. And Micro Jackson is about as micro-heavy as it gets. Kites down 2 Ultras, wades through the Roaches and Ravagers, chases them down, breaks their spindly knees, and knocks them out. Beyond a 40 supply. Grilling Claws, some obscene Widowmine hits. Fungal, too little. Fungal, too late. And doubles back for the base. The hatchery can be targeted. Shin with a desperate counterattack. But before the Widowmine can even hit, ByuN claims victory 3-2. I think securing a strategic victory in these matches. When Shin was left to his devices, he adapted and he overcame. So ByuN just never let him adapt. He learned his lesson about the Reapers, and either go all the way or don't go at all, is where we ended up on that. And ByuN 3 to Shin's 2. Though I'm looking forward. They're so evenly matched. It's just, it feels like such a whiplash sort of series every time. And again, we go back and forth. I'm talking in circles. And hopefully you're circling that like button and maybe even... Okay, all right. If you got the means of motivation, be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. And if you got the No, we already did that. Oh my. Jimmy, wrap it up. Thank you to our Mule Tier patrons, Big Jig, Devin Door, Kate, Mario, Random Guy Suit, for bringing in those extra minerals. Obviously, we need them. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free for now. Thank you for watching. I hope I made your day just a little bit better. I hope to see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Thank you for watching. Stay chill.